Now, if you remember, a technical issue with the cooling system at a data center caused an hours-long outage for banking and payment services at the weekend. Now, to shed more light on the event, we have Anton Ruddenklau. Now, he's partner and head of financial services at KPMG Singapore. Anton, now you remember, casting your memory back to DBS and Citibank users being terribly affected this weekend when Equinix had what they're calling a technical issue with their cooling system. Explain to us, how exactly are data centers and banks linked?
Well, the background is, our banks are becoming more digital. Therefore, they're storing a lot more data. Their services are becoming applications rather than branches. And what that means is that banks are now looking for partners, data center providers, whether they're cloud or otherwise, to be able to house all that data, house the services and the critical infrastructure that keeps payments, ATMs, credit cards, and our current accounts going. So that link has become inextricable in the last few years.
So that inextricable link, Anton, it's Dawn speaking here, how reliant are banks on those data centers actually working the way they're supposed to?
Very reliant. There are strict regulatory requirements around this. Banks don't take it lightly when they choose a third-party provider to actually provide services. So they're very, very diligent in the way that they work. There are penalties and fines for the banks themselves if services don't run. And likewise, there are actually really stringent regulatory mechanisms around the physical surveillance and oversight of these data centres, as well as what happens within the data centres for security and cyber risk. So penalties can be large if things go wrong.
Now, we've been talking about the banks, but beyond the banks, how important are the data centres to providing other kinds of financial services to consumers?
Well, I think, most of our digital capabilities that sit on our mobiles at the moment, whether they're a social media site, whether they're buy now, pay later applications, whether they're GrabPay, for example, they will all head back, all that content will head back to a data center somewhere. Typically in Singapore, we're known for having probably one of the largest, if not the largest, data center environments outside of China and Asia. So it's big business for our island to be able to get that right. But it also, for financial service, it means that data centers are providing far more services to the non-banking sector for payments or other types of services than we've seen before. That growth will probably continue over the next few years.
And that growth, Anton, it's going to cover plenty of other sectors, as you say. What other businesses are reliant on data centers?
Well, the outage that happened recently also affected Meta. Meta's services around WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook. These particular services were impacted outside of Singapore. And many of these data centers are what they call multi-hosted or multi-tenanted. So they'll have a variety of different businesses, not just banks, but that could be anything from sort of healthcare through to retail, through to online platforms, sharing the rack space within those centers. So they're very much a critical part of our infrastructure for our digital economy. And that brings with it both risks, as we've seen, but also rewards in terms of capacity, flexibility, and the ability for Singapore to do large amounts of compute power, actually create value from our data, which puts us ahead of many, many other markets in Southeast Asia in particular.
So as you've been saying, Singapore indeed one of the key markets for data centers, one of the biggest, especially within APEC. So these incidents like this past weekend, will it undermine Singapore's legitimacy as a market? Because you said we've got to get it right.
We do. I'm of a certain age, and I think nothing is perfect in life. And what's happened with this particular instance is some process or procedural control has not been followed. And I'm sure there'll be all sorts of investigations happening within the provider, from the banks and other service providers into that third party, and then the regulators themselves. So I think it'll be a lot of analysis at the moment as to what is happening. I think moving forward, we shouldn't be too worried. We should expect there to be the odd outage. This is part of the digital economy and what we do. And I don't think we should expect 100% perfect service. That being said, regulators will ensure that this doesn't happen again. and regulators will also ensure that the controls and the processes that led us down this time round are actually tightened up.
Anton, we want to thank you for your analysis there. Thank you very much. Anton Ruddenklau, their partner and head of financial services at KPMG Singapore. Thank you.